And the next thing I know is from here to that wall, 10 feet away, I saw an island. And I let go of the handlebars, and I thought, I'm dead.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the other side of the call. Today, we're talking to Michael Laughlin, a Kingston firefighter whose story is nothing short of extraordinary. Michael survived not one, but two major accidents that cost him more than most people face in a lifetime. He fought back from a serious snowmobiling accident in his 20s and years later was involved in a devastating motorcycle accident that unfortunately cost him his right leg. But it didn't take his purpose. While most people would have left the job, Michael fought to return, not just to fire service in general, but to full-duty frontline firefighting and even a promotion to captain 2 years ago. In today's episode, Michael takes us through the moments everything changed, the grueling recovery process, and the mental war that comes with rebuilding a career and an identity from the ground up. This is about resilience, grit, humility, and what it means to show up for your team and your community after life has knocked you flat. This conversation isn't just about physical recovery, it's about who you become when the world hands you a before and after you never asked for. So just before we begin, a content warning. This episode includes discussion of a traumatic amputation, intense physical and emotional recovery, and the psychological impact of sudden life-altering trauma. We also talk about fear, identity loss, and moments of extreme vulnerability. We may also touch on how this story impacted his peers. Please take care while listening, pause if you need to, and if you'd like to reach out for support, there are peer support networks like Boots on the Ground Alberta or Ontario, Wings of Change right across Canada, and those can all be found online. Alternatively, you may dial 988 from anywhere in Canada if you are in crisis. So welcome, everyone. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Michael, would you prefer I call you Mike or Michael?
You can, either is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you here today. Would you mind giving us just a quick intro to who you are and why you're here today?
Well, my name's Michael Laughlin. My claim to fame is I'm Canada's first and only above-knee amputated full-time firefighter. And like you said, I came back to work as a firefighter after a pretty good accident that I'll tell you all about.
Wow. Okay.
Welcome.
We're excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just let you talk today, really. I mean, you've got an incredible story to share, and we're just witnesses to how you're going to help us and help other people today come back from things they didn't think they could come back from.
There's been a lot, and it all started when I was 4 years old. We were in the family station wagon, and I lived out in Joyceville, so grew up on a farm in Joyceville, and my mother, my sister, and myself were going to drop my sister off at her friends. And so we get there, drop her off, and I was very angry that I couldn't stay and play with the girls, right? And so I was kicking and screaming, and my mom got me back in the station wagon, and off we go home, and it's, the backcountry roads, and we're going around one corner, and this 4-year-old boy decided he was going back, and I opened the door and I jumped out. And when I jumped out, I hit the ground, and the back wheels of the car bump over my legs. And she gets out, she's hysterical. She picks me up. I have a cut, and my face is all blood. And she picks me up and throws me in the station wagon, and off we go to the hospital. And we drive into a merge, and she runs me in and puts me on like a gurney, and the doctors come over, and then she goes to do triage and sign me in. And when she comes back, I'm sitting on the edge of the gurney, kicking my feet, smiling, laughing with the nurses. And she's like, how is that possible? What's wrong? And so I had this tiny little cut on my head that bled a ton and looked terrible. And they had a Band-Aid on it, and my legs were totally fine. You're made of rubber. It happened fast, and it was done. And my mother from that day on said, you're going to have a problem with these legs of yours, right? She always said, you're going to have a problem with these legs. And so that was kind of my first little bit of trauma in my life. But life went on. And so growing up on a farm, doing chores, we had cows, we did hay. I threw hay every year for all the farms around. I was a pretty good, strong young lad. And so when I got into sports, I was pretty good at them. And being a January birthday, January 10th, I was a little older than the kids in my year. And so, sports were a huge part of my life. And so hockey, fastball. When I got to high school, it was rugby, football, and won many championships in all those sports. Won a national championship in fastball in 2000. I was the captain of the team. was the captain of my junior A team. I was also drafted by the Kingston Frontenacs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I, played a lot of hockey, played a lot of sports, and was pretty good. Not quite good enough to be a pro. I had a few friends that made the NHL, but knew I wasn't going to make pro about my second year of junior. But still loved playing hockey and still played till the end of junior. But I was like, what am I going to do with myself? If I'm not going to be a pro hockey player, the dream, I want to figure out what I want to do. And so still had a couple of years left of high school. And I always wanted to be a firefighter when I was a kid. I thought it was pretty cool. And at this time, I was like, I can do that. I can be a firefighter. And so I went down to the local fire station and kind of looked at what it was all about and realized, how closely related that is to hockey. And so you're in the station, you're hanging out with the crew, with your team, and you're, playing some pranks maybe and hanging out together. It's like being in the dressing room, right? Mm-hmm. You're in the dressing room with your team and you're the camaraderie and all that. And so when you go out on the ice, it's all business and it's, whatever you got to do for the team and you're going to go as hard as you can all the time. Well, that's like getting a fire call, right? We get a fire call. It's whatever we got to do to solve the problem, to help the citizens, whatever we're doing, we're going to win. There's no losing at this. And so I was like, this is just like hockey. This is what I need to do. And so my last year of high school, I took a co-op with the Kingston Fire Department. And so, I would go, to the fire station, mop floors and do all the stuff around the station. And then I would go back and play rugby after school. And as soon as I turned 18, I became a volunteer. And that's kind of when my fire career started. But I just turned 19. A friend of mine, Jake Murphy, and I both got on at the same time.
So can you talk a little bit about that transition between being a volunteer and then getting on full time?
Actually, a spot came up in fire dispatch and they were really short. And so the deputy at the time knew that Jake Murphy and myself had got on and we knew every truck in the fire department. We knew every station. And he said, he offers us a job in dispatch part-time. So we did. And eventually that worked into a full-time dispatch job.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did that did part-time for a year and a half and full-time for a year until they hired full-time firefighters and I applied and passed no problem, became a full-time firefighter at 23.
Wow. What a great story. Wow. So you really knew what you wanted to go after. Now, did any of that, was it influenced by the work your mom did? Because I met her and she was a nurse in a burn unit.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
And she told me some stories about, that specific job. And I'm just like, how did you do that? Now I know why my mom's so tough and was able to handle everything that I did to myself.
You were good training for the job or the job was good training for being your mom?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. So life was good. And so, but I was a young man making really good money at that time and partied and,
Had some toys.
And so in 2007, I was out snowmobiling and we were out and we had actually gone home and we're getting ready to take our stuff off. And I was like, hey, to the one guy, I'm like, let's go for one more rip across the lake. And he's like, no, it's too late. It's dark. It's snowing. We're not going. I'm like, oh, come on. You can do one more. And I talked him into it. And so we go out and we're going across Lowborough Lake, which is north of Kingston. And if you've ever been out in the middle of a lake at night, you literally can't see anything. And if you don't have any landmarks, you don't know where you are. Mm-hmm. So I was following him. He's from there. He knew the lake. He knew the landmarks. And so I was trying to follow him. But the thing was, it was snowing and it started snowing harder and harder to the point where it was snowing sideways and I couldn't see from, 10 feet in front of me. And so we're going across the lake and I'm trying to watch his taillight. Cause I'm like, if I lose his taillight, I'm not going to know where I am. I could drive around out here for an hour until I run out of gas. Then I'm going to freeze to death. Mm-hmm. And then what do I do? Right. So I'm trying to speed up, catch his taillight. So I did that about 5 times. I'd speed up. I got his taillight. And then I would lose it because he would turn a little bit or whatever. And so I would speed up. Oh, there he is. And I'd catch him again. And so I did that about 5 times. And the 6th time I'm speeding up and I can't find him. And so not thinking I'm speeding up, I'm doing like 120 kilometers an hour across this lake, blind. And the next thing I know is from here to that wall, 10 feet away, I saw an island and I let go of the handlebars and I thought I'm dead. Then I sat up and I was, oh my God, I'm alive. And I looked down and my left leg is snapped off at the femur. I could see it was grossly deformed. And, being a firefighter, I know what that stuff is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what else is wrong with me? What else is wrong with me? So I take my helmet off. My helmet's cracked. I hit so hard I cracked my helmet. And I reach in my pocket and I grab my phone. And it was those old flip phones back then, right? 911, send, the phone dies. Those old phones, they get cold.
Yeah, the battery drains.
Everyone remembers that. So I throw the phone. I remember cursing and throwing the phone. I was like, what am I going to do?
Sorry, did it go through? Like, did you hear a connect? They didn't even get a
I hit the
drop?
button, send, it dropped. Okay. So I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I took a quick inventory on what's on me. I had a lighter, a knife, and some other stuff that I didn't need in my pockets, a bottle of alcohol, and so tossed it. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So every once in a while, the snow would break a little bit, and I saw there was a cottage on this island I hit. It was in the middle of this lake. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to crawl to that cottage and I'm going to light it on fire. And then the flames will be out 200 feet in the air.
Yeah, somebody will see me.
Someone's coming.
Someone's coming.
Yeah, the fire department will be out here and they'll find me out here. And that's my only way. I don't know how else to do this. So I started crawling. And I remember...
with a broken femur.
Yeah. So talk about pain. The most pain I've ever been in, obviously. And so I was crawling and in a lot of pain. And then finally, about 5 minutes later, I laid down. And I tried to die and just said, just die, get it over with. And then I started thinking, I can't do this to my family. I can't do this to my mom, my dad. They're gonna be devastated that I died out here. I got to keep going. And so I kind of pulled some strength from that, and I kept crawling. And I crawled and I crawled. And about 5 minutes later, I tried the second time to die, and I laid down. And I'm just like, just die, get over with. And then I had to pull some energy from something else. And it was, well, you're supposed to be this tough firefighter, hockey fighter.
Yeah.
Everyone knows you, your reputation, and you're going to go out like this and like give up. There's no way you're giving up. And I kept crawling again. And when I did the second time, I heard the snowmobile come back. So he had gotten to the other side, the guy I was following, realized I wasn't there and started searching for me and came across 1,000 pieces of snowmobile all over the ice. So we started hollering back and forth, and he gets over top of me and he's like, what do I do? And he turned white as a ghost.
Now, was he a firefighter?
No. And so he was literally probably in more shock than I was. And he's like, what do I do? I like grab me and drag me on the back of the snowmobile. And I said, it's going to hurt. I'm going to scream. Don't stop. Just drag me. And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So he starts dragging me and I'm, and he stops. I go, I told you not to friggin' stop, right?
Get it over with.
And so the second time he's like, okay, I can do it. So he drags me, gets me on the snowmobile, drives me into shore, and I could feel the bones of my femur cracking together the entire way in. And I imagine I squeezed him so hard he probably couldn't breathe. But we got to the shore, and he's like, it's okay. I got a car waiting, or a vehicle waiting. We'll get you into the hospital. And in hindsight, you call an ambulance. But I was a firefighter. I was too smart for that, right?
Right, of course.
And we get to the other side, and what's waiting for me? This jacked up Ford truck. With like a 10-inch lift, and they're trying to lift me up.
Oh my God.
And my legs coming apart.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, you idiots, like this isn't going to work, right? So they put me back down, and actually I phoned my girlfriend at the time and was like,
get over here.
I did something bad. You got to come get me. And so she didn't live far away, came, got me.
I did something bad. There's the understatement of the week.
I didn't want to explain too much.
Right.
But anyways, she drove me into town, get to emerge. She ran in. This nurse comes out with a wheelchair and opens the door to the car and goes, oh shit, and goes back in, gets a gurney and 6 other people. And they pull me out of the car, and I was like, oh, I look that bad, eh? Right?
Wow.
And the crazy thing is my leg had swollen so much. I had jeans on, and the seams of my jeans were starting to tear.
Wow.
You can, jeans are tough.
Yeah.
And but the jeans were holding me together. And so luckily I had those jeans on, because I said it would have been much worse, right? Could have lost that leg.
Mm-hmm.
So they get me in, and they're getting me, they cut everything off you, and it's like bees buzzing, like everything's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And finally I have a gown on, and I'm laying waiting for surgery. And they had given me a bunch of painkillers at the time, and I was feeling okay at that time.
Yeah.
And this little old lady nurse walks in the room, and she goes, I'm going to put your catheter in. Okay, but I'm a 26-year-old guy. I have no idea what that is. I'm like, I'm like, well, whatever.
Whatever.
Right? And she comes up and she pulls the gown back and grabs me, and I go, boom, and I push her away. I'm like, don't you dare. And she falls back onto the floor.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm like, right. And she just gets up and she smiles at me and kind of winks and walks out. I'm like, yeah, you're freaking right. You're not doing that. Well, 2 minutes later, she walks in with 4 porters.
Oh.
strong
They're
guys.
gonna hold you
They
down.
pin me down, and she's like, as she puts it in as I scream, right?
Yeah.
She knew
She's
she
like,
was.
ha ha,
she was gonna
I'll
win.
get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always win this battle.
Exactly the expression on her face. Like, yeah, I've done this before. Anyway, so then into surgery I go, and I woke up the next morning, and I kind of looked down, and my leg's in a huge cast, and I have, this great big cast on my arm, and I was like, what's wrong with my arm? I didn't do anything to my arm. And so the doctor comes in, and he explains all my injuries. And so I broke my tibia fibia, I broke my kneecap off and cracked it in half and shattered 6 inches of my femur. And I had a compound fracture of my ulna sticking out.
And you didn't know. You didn't.
I had no idea because I was in so much pain and so focused on my leg and surviving that I just didn't even pay attention to it. And that's crazy.
A compound fracture in your ulna?
Yeah. So my forearm was sticking out.
I'm in pain just thinking about that.
Yeah.
It didn't even happen.
But it's just crazy, the human body and the mind. Like you can just totally ignore that when you have a goal and like a mission, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I have a titanium plate for a forearm.
Oh, I can see your scar a little bit.
Yeah. So everywhere I have scars, I have a tattoo of the staples that I used to have.
Oh, I love that idea.
And everywhere.
I'll take a picture for our socials later.
Sure. Yeah. And I have a titanium rod femur, 33 pins and screws holding my kneecap, knee, tibia, fibia, everything together on my left side. And so I was like, I got to go back to work. When can I go back to work? Right. And they're like, it's going to be a long haul. You're going to have to, it's step by step, literally. Yeah. And I remember the first day physio came in, right? Once I got the cat, a couple months went by and I go in to do physio and she's like, stand up and take a step. And so I did, and I took a step, and she's like, that was a great day. I'm like, what?
You're like, when am I running a marathon?
Exactly. My mind was like, okay, I'm walking today and I'll run tomorrow kind of thing, right? Yeah. And they're like, no, it's like 1 step today, 2 steps tomorrow. And I was, my mind was not liking that at all. So they gave me exercises to do when I went home. It would be like 10 push-ups on my, because this was all healed, 10 push-ups and, go for a small, like 5 steps and sit down in the wheelchair kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So I would go home and do like 500 push-ups, walk around the house 80 times, right? I was like, I'm going to beat this. And I did. So I was back to work full duty in 8 months. I went back to light duty after the 2 months. So I was in a wheelchair still when I went back to.
And how much do you attribute your athletic training to helping you with that recovery?
100% of it.
Yeah.
So that I don't want to lose, never give up attitude that I learned through all the sports and not letting people down. And like, no, I don't want to let the fire department down. I'm a firefighter. I need to be there and do my job. Like, and then the training part is like, as any athlete, right? You push to the limits. Well, that's exactly what it was. And that's what got me back so quick. And like, you would never know I even had an accident unless you saw the scars. I was walking totally normal, playing hockey again. I was a catcher in fastball, went back to catching in the lower league in the men's fastball league. You never would have known I had an accident. And that was all, like I said, like you said, attributed to this, sports, my background in sports.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that was my first big setback in life. And
not rolling out of the car,
not being run over by your mother.
That was minor details, right? But once again, a leg problem,
right?
So the theme will go on. But so life went on, and while I was working out, getting ready to go back to work in those 8 months, I was going to Good Life Fitness, and I met a girl that I went to high school with, and we were just like acquaintances in high school. But we hit it off and started dating. And moved in together not long after that. And, 4 years go by and we were living together on Dog Lake. And she was a yoga teacher and a very good one, well known. And so we opened a yoga studio called Life Yoga on the east side of Kingston. And life was good. And, I'm a firefighter. She's a yoga teacher with her own studio. And you'd think, that life was great. But, went out for my birthday, January 9th. So Jarrett, that's in my co-founder of the book and Untapped 60, his birthday's on January 9th. Mine's on January 10th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we always celebrate together. So he came back down to Kingston and we went to celebrate. And Jen, my girlfriend, was supposed to come out with us and decided at the last minute she wasn't going to go have fun, see you tomorrow kind of thing, stay out with your friends. So we go out. had a good birthday party. And I come back at 10 the next morning and I got dropped off and walk in the door and Jen's laying on the couch and I go in the kitchen and I do a couple things in the kitchen and I'm like, holler over the couch, hey, you're going to get up? It's kind of late kind of thing because it's not normal for her to be laying on the couch. And didn't think anything of it. And then I do a couple more things and I'm just kind of like got like this like spidey senses in my neck. And so I started walking over to the couch and like got about halfway there and I realized that she was dead and she had committed suicide while I was out. And, I would rather crash that snowmobile 100 times, 1,000 times than go through this. Because obviously I started blaming myself, right? How did I not know she was going to do this? Why wasn't I home? All these things. And then to add insult to it all. So after my accident in 2007, I was on painkillers and first painkillers I'd ever taken in my life. And when I got out of the hospital, I was prescribed as many as I needed for 2 years. And the doctors kind of got some heat on them from overprescribing. And my doctor was just like, I guess you're good. It's been 2 years. You don't need it anymore. And so I was like, all right. And when they ran out, I stopped taking them and got very sick and didn't realize this was going to happen. So I had to go into a methadone clinic and get help because I didn't want anybody to know and I didn't want to miss work and I didn't know what to do. And I was scared. So I went to a methadone clinic out of town, not even in Kingston, because I didn't want, I was ashamed of what had happened.
Ashamed of taking medication that had been prescribed to you for a life-altering injury. Yeah. Okay.
Makes me emotional because it's like I was so hard on myself about all that. So, I was addicted, went on the methadone. Well, what did she use to kill herself? She drank my methadone. Now she knew all about it. It was locked up. It was kept where it was supposed to. She knew exactly what it was and what it would do. And she did it so she could go to sleep. She knew. Like, I get that now, but at the time I was like, I killed her. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What my addiction ultimately led to killing her.
But the truth is if somebody wants to do that, they're going to find a way to do it.
I know that now.
Yeah.
And I realized it would have been something else.
Right.
She would have found a way. But at the time it was, and so I spiraled out of control and I was drinking, doing drugs, taking painkillers, doing everything wrong. And
well, you were doing everything to cope. Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And eventually, I got arrested buying painkillers. And I knew all the cops that arrested me were,
from calls.
Years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, this is rock bottom. I'm going to lose my job now. Everything's done. Right. I'm a drug addict. My girlfriend killed herself. Like, how can I get any worse?
Yeah.
Right?
Fair question.
Yeah. And so luckily when I went to court, got in front of a judge and I got a chance to explain my story. And he went, wow, you didn't ask for this. He goes, you'll get a second chance today. Wow. And I never want to see your name ever in this, in any court ever again, because you won't get another one.
Right.
Yes, sir. Right. And I cleaned up my act. Right. And so luckily my family and friends, they got behind me and I got through that part of my life.
Wow.
And, so, to go through, like I said, losing someone like that, it's really tough.
How old were you guys then?
30.
Wow.
Yeah. And we were the same age. We were both the same
high school
year.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. So 81 birthday and we were 30 years old. So anyway, so that part of my life kind of put behind me and tried to rebuild myself again. And not only was I rebuild myself, but my reputation, right? I felt like everyone thought I was a dirtbag, because of all these things I piled up. And, you get arrested, everyone knows about it in a small town like Kingston, and you're a drug addict, everyone knows about it. So I had to rebuild my reputation. And I did. Over the next few years, I did. And just tried to keep a, clean nose and do everything properly. Now, I wasn't living a perfect life. I was still going out partying sometimes, hanging out with the wrong crowd sometimes. I still struggled a little bit that way. And so fast forward to 2016. And I'm living with a friend of mine out on just north of Lower Lake on North Shore Road and still trying to get back on my feet. I was always looking to replace Jen, right? So never really held down a relationship because it wasn't her. I had a motorcycle, since I was little, I drove dirt bikes, anything that went fast and had a motor I drove. So I had a motorcycle and was out for a ride, 4 p.m, going down North Shore Road, which is a nice windy road, and enjoying myself. And all of a sudden I'm driving along and I see a flash of brown in the corner of my eye, and boom, I get hit, and I got into a speed wobble, and I'd been hit by a deer. It came out of the ditch. It heard the motor, got spooked, and made a bolt for it like they do with cars. But I was on a motorcycle, and it hit me, but it actually didn't go down, and I got into a speed wobble, and I'm going back and forth, and I got a hold of the bike again. And by the time I got a hold of it, I look up, and there's a 90-degree turn in the road, and I had to slow down a bit. So I tried to turn as hard as I could, and you counter steer the opposite way. My peg scraping off the side of the road, and I'm just about around the corner, and my back tire hits the shoulder, hits the loose gravel, and it just shoots straight from under me. And I remember thinking to myself, don't hit your head, because of being a firefighter. I see all these accidents I've been to, and typically when they hit their head, it's not good, right? So I tried to ride it out on my butt. So I bounced off the road on my butt a couple times, and I shoot down into the ditch, and I'm going down with my feet first, and I watched my right leg hit a rock and snap right off at the knee, and come to a stop, and the bike comes in after me and hits the rock and flops over on top of my legs. So immediately I remember thinking, I did it again. I just did it again, and now I'm going to fight again.
Did you think it was broken like the last time, just the other side? Like, was there a moment where you were like, it's not that bad?
No, so I remember literally thinking, how am I going to go to work tomorrow?
Oh my gosh.
Can I get to work tomorrow? Knowing the legs ripped off. I was in shock a little bit. And then I was like, okay, well, it's time to go to work. I've done this before. I can do it again. So I took the bike and I flipped the bike off me, and I looked down, and my legs dislocated at the knee, and dislocated meaning it's not part of me anymore. And I saw this like white ball, and I was like, what's that white ball? And it was actually, no, it was the ball of my ankle. My foot was ripped off, and the ankle was all exposed. And it's just like a horror movie, right? I'm just like, okay, what do I do? So I pulled my belt out. I put a tourniquet on as best I could, because I know I was bleeding, and got it pretty tight. It's a lot of pain, obviously, and did that. Then I go to get my phone, and I remember I was shaking, and my phone was in my left pocket, and I was pulling it out. And then I was thinking, I'm not dialing 911 because they're going to have to transfer me twice. I'm dialing right to my fire department. I want them coming now, right? Yeah. So I had to dial all the digits, though, all 10. I'm like, I better get this the first time. So never have I concentrated so hard in my life. Yeah. And I hit every number perfectly, send, and the dispatcher answers, and she says, hey, Mike, how's it going?
Not great.
I'm dying in a ditch on end of North Shore Road. And I remember, like, when you do a Mayday in the fire department, you need to tell them where you are first. Yeah. So at least they can get there. They don't care who you are. Yeah. You need to know where you are. So I'm at the end of North Shore Road. It's Mike Laughlin, and I'm dying. I was in a motorcycle accident. Right. I remember thinking I had to do it in the right order, and I did. And then she kept me on the line. We talked a little earlier. It was, she won an award for keeping me on the line for the 17 minutes. And
so sorry to interject. You called like the non-emergency number. Yeah. You didn't think this was an emergency?
No, it wasn't that. I just knew that someone was going to pick up no matter what on that line. And if they were busy with 911 calls or other calls, it would ring a few times the other way. I just thought it was the fastest way to get someone.
You'll go straight to fire and not to the PSAP.
Well, because they transfer you a couple of times. I've done it. Yeah. I've done it at other people's accidents where I phoned it in, come across something. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, geez, this is a long time to be waiting. I felt like, right. And so I knew that they would pick up on the first ring because it's a private line, right? Anyway, so.
And it's your guys.
It's my people.
Yeah.
And I knew it was in good hands, right? So they had people coming right away. And little did I found out later, the fire headquarters is the building the dispatch is in. I found out later that everyone in the building, that's what always chokes me up, was standing over that phone listening to me. Oh. And I was literally saying my goodbyes and I'm probably going to die. So it's, tell my family I love them.
Tell my mom I love her. Yeah.
All that stuff. And they're all huddled around this phone listening. And the second I hung up, they all got in vehicles and drove down to the hospital.
You're making me teary.
Yeah. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the brotherhood, the sisterhood, right? Is they all just jumped in a bunch of vehicles and drove down there. But anyways, I could hear the sirens coming eventually. In the meantime, a car had drove by and didn't see me because I was way down in the ditch. So I took my helmet off. I threw it up on the road. I had a couple motorcycle parts around me. I grabbed them and throwing them on the road. And the next car came and it stopped. And this little old lady comes to the edge of the ditch. And I'm like, she's going to take one look and walk away.
She's going to pass out.
Right? And she didn't. She made her way down through the ditch, and she got behind me and she put her arms around me.
Oh.
And she told me I was going to be okay.
Do you remember her name? Do you know her name?
My mom knows her name. We actually contacted her and thanked her.
Yeah.
My mom looked after that. Anyways, and so it's what I needed, right? I was alone in the ditch, thinking I was dying, and someone was there. And so this day and age, people walk over top of people on the sidewalk,
Mm-hmm.
and or like see an accident and speed by, and they want nothing to do with it because it's going to hold them up. They don't have time for that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, they could be that person that she was for me, because she gave me that extra, like, okay, I'm going to make it. Right. I needed her at that time, and she didn't know that. And we thought maybe it was like a retired nurse or something, someone that's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she was a retired school teacher.
Oh,
Just a good person.
bless her heart.
Yeah.
So she's probably kissed a lot of boo-boos and,
Right? Right? Yeah.
This was on
This is
another
a bigger one.
level.
Yeah, it's a bigger boo-boo.
you know, yeah, but she gave you that hug and held you. And, you know, I called those people earth angels because, you know, I truly believe that if it's not our time to go, that there are people looking out for us up there, and they send us these people in real life
Yep.
to keep the hope, right? And to
Yeah,
keep us
I like that.
going. Yeah.
Now, did you lose consciousness at all?
No.
No. So
Neither
you-
accident. I
Wow.
have a pretty hard head. Never been knocked out in sports or anything, right? Knock on wood.
This guy's like a different breed, man.
Robotic now.
And I was a hockey fighter, to be honest.
Were you?
I was that guy.
Get the
Yeah.
mitts off?
Yeah, I stuck up for my teammates. So I got drafted as a defenseman, but then I moved up to forward because you could pick fights easier.
Yeah.
Heard the sirens coming. The first firefighter that came in down in the ditch, I knew, and it took him a second to realize it was me. And actually, the poor guy had some PTSD from that call, from just because we knew each other, and it was such a traumatic scene, right?
Mhm.
The fire chief of South Frontenac, where it was, he was my captain back in the day when I first started. So he showed up, and I felt like, I was in good hands, and I kind of just let go at that point and let them do their thing. And normally I'm the guy doing the, cutting clothes off, putting neck braces on, strapping them to the board, right? And I knew what they were doing the whole time, and I just kind of let them do it. I just kind of just laid back and was like, I fought for like
As long as you could to
Yeah,
stay alive.
like 20 minutes
Yeah.
as hard as I could. And when I say that, I tell people it was every bit of my human being to not lay down and quit. The entire time, it was like fighting, tooth and nail, everything I had to stay conscious and stay like on top of what I was doing and not go into shock. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's hard to explain that to someone that hasn't really like been there, because if you give up for 1 hair, 1 second, 1 millisecond, you're done.
Mhm.
And so it was the fight for my life, right? And that's what they say, you fight for your life. It's crazy. But so I kind of gave up at that point. They packaged me in the ambulance. We're going into town. They're giving me painkillers. They're not working. And so the ambulance guy, which I actually was on a call with him last shift, the guy
That was
the ambulance-
administering your,
yes,
your
was so
care.
cool. And we're still friends.
Oh.
He says, I can't give you any more. Like, I don't know why they're not working. And I said, well, I got a story for you. I've done this before, and I've been addicted to them. And he's like, oh, he goes, okay, well, sorry, can't help you.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's all good. I earned it. Right.
I earned it.
Yeah.
You didn't earn anything. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Well, living life the wrong way, I just felt like I did. And, I don't anymore. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But, so we get into the hospital, and the ambulance backs up. The door is open. This always gets me.
Hmm.
There's 2 lines of firefighter personnel.
Oh, they came to escort you in.
And so they wheeled the gurney through the line, and they all kind of touched me. And we get to the last of the line. It's the fire chief, Sean Armstrong. And he leans over and he goes, Mike, no matter what happens, you're going to have a job.
Wow.
And honestly, I was 36 years old, single guy. All I was a firefighter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's your
Right.
whole identity.
My whole identity that I fought back to get was the
So
tough
many
thing.
times.
And I'm
too.
like, I fought this hard to lose it all again, right?
Wow.
Sorry, I'm getting choked up. But
Okay.
and so when he leaned over and said that, it's what I needed. I was like, okay, now I just have to concentrate on getting back again. Like, that's
To survive
mine
the
just went
surgery.
right back to not worrying. It was just like, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
And so they wheel me in, and it's like bees buzzing again, and all this stuff's going on. And they'd given me the high powered painkillers,
Mhm.
and they really weren't doing a lot. And you'll know why in a few minutes. But the doctor comes over, he's like, Mike, we can't give you any more painkillers. We're going to put you in a coma. And I remember begging him. I'm like, put me in a coma, please. Put me in a coma.
Right now, put me to sleep.
I'm done. This is like 2 hours later.
Oh my God.
Of suffering. And so they put me in a coma, and I was in a coma for 8 days.
Was your mom there that night? Like right away?
Oh yeah, the whole family was there.
Yeah.
They're those poor parents of mine getting these calls, like not once, right?
She
not
was
twice, but 3 times, because they got the call for Jen too, right? Like all these, and so anyways, I'm in a coma. And I remember when I woke up out of a coma, and so I was, in a coma, and I opened my eyes, and my mom is right over top of me saying, honey, you're alive, it's okay, but don't move. And I realized that I was strapped to the bed, and I kind of could look up like this, and I looked down, and my leg's reattached, and it's in this big halo, and I have a neck collar on. And she's like, Mike, you can't move. You broke your neck in 2 spots. You broke your back in 3 spots. And they reattach your legs. You got to stay still. And so I was like, impossible. How do you break your neck and your back in 5 different places?
Yeah.
And not paralyzed? You're like, well, you didn't, no, there's no cord trauma, but you broke the vertebrae, right? So they put 2 12-inch rods in your spine, and you're wearing a neck brace for 4 months to let it heal. And so I was like, oh, great, right? So I didn't have a clue. I was throwing stuff out of the ditch, moving around all over the place. Right?
Any one of those could have paralyzed you, right? At that point.
And now I realized, why the pain was compounded as well. It wasn't just one thing. It was my whole body was wrecked.
Broken.
And I had broken ribs, and I had no clue the entire time I had broken ribs. And everyone knows, like, broken ribs are one of the most painful things. I had no clue I ever broke them.
Wow.
Because everything else hurts so much.
So much. You're like, oh, it's more pain.
Yeah. It's like all together, right? So, so there began a long recovery in ICU first, right? And I remember, being there and learning that, I knew nurses, how valuable they were. My mom was a nurse. I went through the first accident, but this is like a totally different story, because I couldn't move for 30 days. And so I pooped the bed like a baby. I couldn't do anything for myself. Couldn't feed myself. Couldn't do anything. And so they did everything for me, and they were happy to do it.
So like literally, it was almost like you have been stripped of every aspect of who you are, and you're returned to a baby-like state.
Yep.
Where you're literally forced to relearn absolutely everything and trust everyone around you to guide you.
And that's where, like, these nurses are just so amazing, right? Like they would do it with a smile, and like it was no big deal for them. And I guess, now that I'm married to a nurse, we'll get to that, but she's the same way. She's like, oh, it's just what we do. Right? And it's like, it's just unreal. They don't get paid enough. They should be getting paid what major league ball players get paid, right? They're the ones doing the real work in the
heavy lifting.
Yeah. But so I started my recovery, right? And then so ICU, then got moved to another floor, and finally, I guess rewinding a little bit, is my leg was reattached. And I couldn't believe that. But it didn't stay long. So it was like 4 days, and it had no blood flow. So it ripped the arteries. They ripped all through the nerves, and they'd come in every day and test it to see if there's blood flow. And I would say, is there any? And they're like, oh yeah, no, it's promising. I'm like, right. And he would put the meter on my good foot and be like, thump, 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 thump. He put it on the other one, and there was nothing. I'm like, I can hear that, right? Like, I know it's not working. Anyways, 4 days went by. The doctor comes in, and I knew what he was going to say, but until it's real, and I knew in the back of my mind, like, I knew it was going to be amputated. I just had that feeling. I knew it wasn't alive.
Like in the ditch, you knew.
Yeah, like it was gone. It wasn't part of me anymore. And so when the doctor finally came in and sat down beside me, he's like, Mike, we're going to have to get rid of that leg. And so I'm like, yeah, I know. And then he left, and then I grieved with my family a little bit. Like, we cried. And then I was like, hey, Dad, pass me that iPad. I said, what's the best prosthetic leg in the world?
Oh.
And so he's like, and we type it in, best prosthetic leg in the world. And up comes a picture of this big Green Beret, like Navy SEAL guy, right? With this mechanical leg standing there all decked, and he went back to duty with his leg, right? I'm like, I need that leg.
Oh.
And I remember my dad was like, oh, okay, whatever kind of thing, right?
Is that the one you have?
That's the one I have.
Oh, I love that.
It's the first leg I ever had. I was lucky enough to have my insurance and stuff. So I an hour after I knew I was getting my leg taken off, I picked out that leg and was like, that's the one I'm going to use to get back to firefighting. Because if that guy can do it, I can do it. Right.
Wow.
And so it started there. And the same thing when again, do 5 pull-ups. Sure. I'll do 1,000. Right. And it was even worse when I was waiting to get this prosthetic leg. Well, there's a whole process, right? You have to wear this rubber sleeve for a while to compress your feet or your stump. And you got the wounds have to heal properly and all that stuff. I'm chomping at the bit. I want to do it. So I went to St. Mary's Hospital, which is Providence now, but St. Mary's it was back then. Yeah. And that's where I kind of did all my physio and started learning how to be an amputee. And yeah, so once I did that, then moved on to getting a leg. Marty Robinson came in, fitted me with a leg. Lucky enough, like I said, to get the leg I wanted right away. So Marty Robinson is the owner of V2 Innovations, 2 locations in Kingston. And so that was the other thing with Marty. I was like, come to him and I need a leg. And then I was like, also, Marty, I'm going to be a firefighter. And he's like, well, like everyone else, it's never been done before. Like, how the heck, right? And so when I finally started getting, I got in shape, started going to the gym, started being me again, learned the leg really quick. Marty was like, wow, you're in shape and you're determined. 2 things that we don't often get, right, with amputees. So I learned it pretty quick. And then I was like, okay, I'm going back to work kind of thing. And so I remember once I got in pretty good shape, I called the chief and was like, Chief, what do I got to do to come back to work? And he's like, geez, Mike, it's never been done. I don't know. So they went and they had a bunch of meetings. And they came back to me a couple of weeks later and were like, okay, we know what you need to do. You need to pass the test you did to get on the fire department. And so I was like, deal, let's do this. And I'd already been a firefighter for 16 years, right? So I went and started training. And so every day trained, every day went to the training grounds, and my fire crew and other fire crews would help me do the drills and everything. And the time came to do the test, and I passed with flying colors. I actually had a couple times better than 2-legged people.
Wow.
And so just determination and knowing the job as well helped, having the years. And so, I became Canada's first and still only above knee amputated full-time firefighter.
That's incredible.
At the same time, there was a guy in the States doing it, Brandon Anderson. And so we had talked back and forth, and he actually went back to work. He became the first in North America, but he went back to work 2 months before me, only because he's a bit of a wuss and didn't break his neck and back. Just lost his leg.
He only lost his leg.
So I tell him that, right?
Yeah.
That was
I love that.
And so he came up and visited.
Oh,
And we're friends to this day. So,
that's awesome.
and he's a captain now down where he is.
That's amazing.
So anyways, that was kind of my claim to fame for a bit. But Marty Robinson, once again, he when I presented him with like, okay, I'm going to be the first firefighter. How do we do this? He's like, I don't know, but let's figure it out, right?
Right.
He was so young and determined and
Hungry.
hungry to figure it out. Just lucky I had a guy like him on my side, because we had to test a bunch of different ways of. I had to get in my gear in under a minute on the truck.
Right.
Well, you can't pull a prosthetic leg out of a boot.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's stuck on there. There's no way. So we had to design a program or a different way of doing it. So I actually have 2 of the exact same leg. One stays in my bunker gear, and I pull a pin, step out of this one, put the pin back in once I step in the other leg.
That's incredible. I never stopped to think about the bunker gear, like the turnout.
Yeah. So I'm on the truck just as fast as everyone else.
So just out of curiosity, can you talk to us a little bit about what it was like the first time the tones went off and you were back? Like the first time you actually responded to a fire or a call?
So actually, I had practiced it a lot, right? So I practiced drills and drills and drills of getting onto the truck. But the first call, there was, obviously some nerves, because I was back to full duty, like going into fires, doing everything, not just like my boss was like, I believe in you, but you need your coworkers to trust and believe in you, right?
That you still have their back.
That's right. That I can still do it. So I was like, let's do this. Cause I said, if I can't do my job, I don't want to be here.
Right.
I'm not going to be that guy. And so, I got thrown right into the fire.
Right into the fire.
And we did. We had a couple structure fires, and I did my job, and everyone was happy. And the same kind of thing happened recently. I got promoted to acting captain, and then I will be a captain after next year.
Yeah.
But I got 2 fires right away as an acting captain, so I kind of had to prove myself
Again
right away, which I wanted, because I want to get that out of the way. and people to rely, be able to rely on me and trust me, right? And so they went very well, and everyone was happy. And I got a compliment not long ago. We were sitting around the table. I was at Brock Street Station, so there's like 10 guys around the table, and the doorbell rang. So I go to jump up to go get the doorbell, and one of the guys is like, "Sit down. You have to go downstairs, right? 2 flights to get down there." And he goes, "Sit down. You got one leg," kind of thing. Just because we all chirp.
Yeah.
And one of the other guys goes, "Hold on, he has one leg," kind of jokingly, but not jokingly.
Like, he didn't believe you.
And the guy beside me is like, "Listen," and I was like, "Yeah, no, I get it." And he was like, "Listen, we don't think of you as having one leg. No one ever thinks of that anymore. That's old news.
Yeah, you're just Mike.
You're just Mike the firefighter, right?" And I was like, that was the best compliment I could ever get.
One of the thoughts that I had when I've been sitting here listening to you share about your story and all these opportunities of recovery and rebuilding and all that stuff. Tell me a little bit about the moments when you did have zero control. Like you talked about, laying in a bed for 30 days, not being able to move. How did you work through that? You said, we talked earlier about how working out is one of the things that has really been a part of keeping your mental health well during all of this, keeping you going and motivated. But when you couldn't do that, were there things that you can describe to our listeners that you did to help you keep the hope or keep the motivation mentally?
Honestly, it's the support team. If I didn't have the support I had, I think it would have been a lot more difficult to get where I got today. So I was so lucky, and I've made friends every walk of life. I'm the kind of person that walks into the grocery store and makes a friend, right? Mm-hmm. Every day. And it really, showed that it paid off when these bad things happen to you, to see the people that support you in your worst moments, right? I had a lineup of people visiting me every day. I had a fire truck show up to the hospital every single day.
Wow.
Whether it was my crew or another crew, they showed up every single day to say hi. That's amazing. To the point where the nurses at the desk put a sign with arrows saying, "Mike's this way," because they got sick of telling people, because I'd have 30 people come in a day.
Wow.
And it didn't stop. A lot of times people get visitors and then it stops. Well, I was still getting, 10 people a day, 30 days later, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's, I felt like I couldn't let them down. Every time they'd walk in, they're like, "Well, if anybody can get back, you can," right? That was always the parting thing.
Yeah.
If anybody can do it, you can. And it was like, that's not a bad thing, because I was like, you know what? I can, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have you saying that, then I wouldn't feel the pressure to do it.
Michael, thank you for trusting us with this part of your story. What you shared here isn't just about survival or injury. It's about what it takes to stay present when everything in your body and mind is telling you to let go. For our listeners, this is a good place to pause. Not because the story is finished, but because this is where survival ends and something harder begins. Join us next week for part 2, where Michael reflects on returning to the fire hall, rebuilding a life he never planned for, finding love and family after loss, and redefining what purpose and worth actually mean when the old version of life is gone. If you're a first responder listening anywhere in the world and this episode resonated, please consider sharing it with someone on your crew, in your hall, or on your dispatch floor. These stories matter, and they travel best when they're passed hand to hand. Take care of yourselves. We'll meet you back here next week. And remember, if it keeps you here, let's talk about it.
So one of the things that is important to do when you have been listening to someone else's story that might be resonating with your own is to recognize that your nervous system might be activated. What we need you to do is to try out these different skills from time to time, especially after listening to this podcast. We want you to just get up and shake your body out, just like we see primal animals do after the hunt or after they escaped a predator. You often see them do this body shake. So just get up and shake your body. Shake your arms out, shake them above your head, shake them down your body, shake your legs individually. Nobody's watching. It's going to feel silly, but it does actually release the tension that your body is trying to do because it feels that threat. So just get up and do some shakes.